All right, all right, all right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna, and you don't know already. Kind of threw me live real quick. I pray everybody is doing well. We have a special treat today, and so I'm gonna get started in a second. But I pressed go live so quick, I didn't remember to to start my other thing here. So give me 1 second. We are gonna get into this. I promised myself I would do better in marketing. So for those who just joined us, this is the live reading of Madame and just having that conversation as you know I like to do, right? So give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. How's everybody doing today? How's everybody doing today? I said, let me get up. Let me get up. I am Artist. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the conversation. So, hold on 1 second here. Give me 2 seconds. We're going to go live. I am here. I am here. Trying to get it together. All right. So, recently I wrote this book. When I say recent, I mean last week. When I say recent, I mean last week. So last week, let me tell you how it started, and then we can go from there. And we are here today. We are here today. I know I have not been in this capacity. Okay, so the last time we left off, it's been a while. The last time we left off, y'all must be like, why is Amuna not going on live? You understand? And so I'm streaming all over. Hopefully, it's coming in loud and clear, right? So the last time we left off, I had this grandiose idea of messing around with Chat GPT, okay, to see how it does as it relates to writing a creative work. And I've said that before for those who are on TikTok and regular social media. I was like, okay, let me see how this works. I had one sister ask me, did you use Chat GPT to write Island Twist? The answer to the question is no. Okay, I did not use Chat GPT to write Island Twist. Okay. Hopefully I could be heard, okay? And I started writing Island Twist, and this is me in author capacity, so welcome to those who just joined us. Lawrence, welcome to the conversation. I started writing that particular narrative like back in 2019. ChatGPT, to my understanding, wasn't a thing for the public during that time. I hand wrote that book, right? So I say that to say it's out here. People feel how they feel. Some people are hyped up about it. Some people are upset about it. I am the type who likes to test uh, things. I like to see, what it is, how can it be used? And let me just say, as an author who, came through the ranks, some people told me, Amuna, you made it look so easy. You made it look so simple. And the reality is, before we get into the reading of this book, this is a little bit of the backstory. I like to document things, right? It looks simple because I went through the grunt work, the grueling grunt work, okay, for many, many years of learning how to do this thing. There wasn't, at that time, the internet wasn't doing this, and there wasn't like abundance of master classes and how-tos, right? It was a big paywall during that time. Welcome for those who have just joined us. So we live in an interesting time. It's like bringing your grandparents into 2024, and they're like, what? To get a letter used to take 2 weeks from across the sea. And like, if you brought Marcus into the conversation and we read about Marcus Garvey, he would like, what? You guys live in a time where you can send a text and it get there Like this, you could be on WhatsApp and they're around the world and they can get it. So we live in that type of time. And that's what's going on in the publishing industry as well. That is what has gone on in the publishing industry. Shout out to those who are on TikTok. Shout out to those who are on all social media, right? And so for me, coming from where it was a little more difficult to now, this is why I'm just in amazement. I know everybody probably doesn't share the same like factor, but for those who do, for those who know, no. So let me continue here. Right. So the reason I wanted to see is because people use it and it's all over the social media for professional purposes, for marketing purposes. They use it to customize their resumes. They use it to write job descriptions, right? They use it for all type of things. And so there's a question of how ethical is this to use GPT to do these things. Now, taking some courses, right? I've been taking some courses for those who are like, well, Amuna, do you really know how to write? If that's the case, do you really know how to write? So I've been taking some courses, and what I found out today is that I don't use it to write my paperwork, my term papers. You can't, because the teachers, not only do they have the reverse chat GPT. First of all, I don't think that as it relates to, let's say I'm doing a research paper on health or whatever the case may be, why? Right? But what they do is they run it through this system, A, to check to see if you've plagiarized. So you better make sure that you know how to write, and B, to make sure that you didn't use this technology to write your paper, right? I get it. So I'm talking about the ethical use of it. And someone said to me, why are you prompting? Why are you prompting it? I'll tell you the way I did it. I did a course and I put it up on Gumroad in the link, but I'm just going to tell you the long and short of how I did it. And then we're going to read a little bit and then we're going to go from there. Anybody have any questions? Feel free to ask, right? I'm looking this way also because I'm on the live here. But I know we're used to talking about, I spend a lot of time on my channels and other spaces talking about and giving light to everybody's story. Make sure you share this live as well. Press like and share to everybody's story. From all the books behind me are about not just, oh, we're going to talk about the famous person, or we're going to talk about this person, we're going to talk about that person. I think it is very short-sighted, and this is me personally, for us, like right now, all over the news feed is all about Diddy. And now it's TD Jakes. I was literally just watching a lawyer break down, and shout out to the lawyer who broke down, okay, make noise, sir, make noise. Okay, just interrupt. What's going on here? What's the name of the lawyer I was just watching? She was breaking down the court records for the lawsuit that was recently filed for TD Jakes. When I say recent, it was like literally just filed, right? And what I found curious, and this is why I'm always circumspect, and people will be like, oh, Muna, you take the long way, you do this, you do that. You have to be mindful in this day and time. And then I'm going to go back to the stories. So people who are on here making a living from blogging and talking about people's stories in a certain way, do you know that in this lawsuit, the people who were covering this story, meaning the blogs, were named? Give yourself a. Not only were they named, like, oh, this person covered the lawsuit. I mean, this person covered the accusations. There are also hyperlinks in the complaint that was filed in federal court for the defamation suit, literally this week. I found that curious. And so people go around now. I think when one of the bloggers, Tasha K, a few years ago was hit with a lawsuit, it made people become even more circumspect. But today it goes beyond that, where they're now being named in the lawsuits. If you cover, I think this has many, like even this has many implications, right? One of which is be mindful how you cover things and what you say for the public record, because it is public record, number one. Number two, allegedly, everybody's like allegedly, like they alleged that word needs to that. Oh. Anyway, I say that to say it's the junk food pop culture, and it doesn't just apply with what we eat. It also applies to how we think and what we're interested in. And the reason that many people cover these stories, these very high profile stories and these very salacious stories, is because this is what the people are interested in. We, the people. Right. And I'm not just talking. I've experienced this, that we find it hard to see the value in the value of the thing. It has to be connected with something we think everybody else is interested in talking about. I say all that to say there are other things, right? And that we can explore our own creativity. Like if we spend 90% of the time that we consume other information looking at things that other people did, then we're just spectators, right? What are we willing to create? What are we willing to do? What are we willing to manifest, right? Not to say that everybody's going to be hyper creative, but it doesn't have to be in a book form. It could be in a food form or in a business form. It could be in your community. It could be, creating a reading group. I saw a young woman the other day and she was like, please teach your children to read. It was a teacher. She was like, the children are coming to school and they don't know how to read. So when I say create, it doesn't just mean in the space of the internet. And I know that many of us are out here doing it, and I want to salute those who are doing it, even though they're not getting support while doing it, right? Hey, it's the part of the game that we live in. So back to this book and why I actually started it, right? It actually started as a prompt. I think I said that before. It was, let me see what could happen. So, and as an author, I think I recorded it. I did. What exactly I wanted ChatGPT to say. Right. So some people are asking, how do you keep it authentic? How do you keep it in a human voice? How do you keep it? You can't just be like, hey, ChatGPT, say all these things. And then boom, I wrote a book, y'all, I'm publishing. It don't work like that. Right. I think it has a benefit as it relates to editing, hands down. When I first started, I said I'm going to put all the books that I've written up at the top. But when I first started, I had to go and find editors, go and find beta readers, go and pay people live cash, right? Imagine doing all that and then your book doesn't sell. Imagine doing all that and then your book doesn't sell. Let me get some of the books so that I can. When I wrote this book, this is one of the first. When I wrote this book here, Angry Black Woman Syndrome Revisited, it was a long title. It was a long title, right? When I wrote this is nonfiction. But what I was trying to do, I was trying to understand the narrative of the angry Black woman and where this trope came from. This was like 2015. Hold on there. I want to write that book, yeah. It was 2015. So what I was trying to do with this book, it really was research and all that. 2015. Yeah. See that? For those who are like, Mona, did you see there? 2015. Okay. So I first did this one in 2015 because I was on my healing journey and still am. And I wanted to learn to deactivate the trigger. I wanted to identify what people were so reactive around and examine it in a way that, again, it can be deactivated. And that took me down a rabbit hole. I know I'm supposed to be talking about Madame right now, but it's important to watch the progression, because eventually, when Amuna becomes a bestseller, you understand what I'm saying? And people are gonna be like, oh, I remember her. But for those day ones, they definitely remember and rock with me, and through all of the ebbs and flows of the things that I do, and I appear, disappear, have different conversations, always facilitating discussions around healing. So anyway, back to Angry Black Woman's Syndrome. I started to do the research and saw the connection between this particular trope and media at the time. So before it became media as it relates to social media, it was print media, it was book media, it was plays, right? That was what was happening. And so what I found in that, it took me back. So I went through, I saw it in the Jeffersons, right? I saw it in Martin with Pam and his interaction. I saw it in Amos and Andy. And the further I went back with this conversation about the angry Black woman and why a lot of melanated women hate to be called that, is the more I saw that it was something that was labeled to control her, to get her to shut up, to get her to be quiet, to get her to sit down, to get her to stop talking, and to weaponize an emotion so that she no longer feels compelled to speak up, to speak out and push back against the status quo, right? So that's what this book was. It was basically a study. I don't even want to call it it was more like a research paper eventually that I put into this book. For those who just joined us, welcome. So when I went through that, I went on a whole conversation. If you check older videos, I started going here. I started talking and collaborating with a lot of different people. I started collaborating with a lot of different people, and this was back in 2015, right? And if you guys are familiar with Dr. Joy DeGruy, I don't speak of this. I realize that I don't speak about a lot that I do. I just keep moving, right? And sometimes it's good to reflect, and shout out to those who's in here reflecting with me, right? So if you even search, you'll see me having a conversation with on a panel with Dr. Joy DeGruy. Dr. Joy DeGruy is known for my mind just went blank. She's known for not PTSD, post-traumatic slave syndrome. My apology. My brain just froze. That's why, I got to get the work done in the morning. She's known for post-traumatic slave syndrome. If you haven't seen her videos, definitely check them out. There was a time on YouTube where you got more value from the content. It was before monetization. Like, I remember the days. It was for pure, a specific side of YouTube, I would say. It was information. It was the elders. It was the, Francis Cress Welsing. It was the theologians. It was the debates. It was a healthy discourse. All that went away. Now it's all extracurricular stuff, in my opinion. Having been around since, 2009 on YouTube, right? And seeing the growth and the evolution and where we are today in social media, not just YouTube. It was the first of its kind in that way. And just seeing the evolution, we lost something along the way. We lost the ability. Those videos used to be 2-3 hours. You'll be cleaning, you'll be studying, you'll be cooking, you turn the video on. Let me know if you guys remember those days. And you would, whether it be about health or politics or a debate, you would just turn it on and go do what you need to do. It wasn't the need to just sit in front of the screen. And that's why sometimes, a lot of times, I turn my screen off and I just talk, because we're being spoon-fed too much. I mean, enough of my face is on the internet, but lately I've just been turning it off and speaking and saying what I had to say. But back to Angry Black Woman before we go to this book, Madame. So in the beginning, I wasn't really writing novels. I was all about the nonfiction. I was all about the research. Well, this research took me to studying slavery. And the reason this research took me to studying slavery was because the angry Black woman trope was rooted in enslavement. It was rooted in the narrative and the story of American slavery. See, I thought I was going to read Madame today, but give me, right? And people like, oh, where did you get that from? What was happening? What had happened was, during that time, after enslavement, you have people who were, even look at my notes, y'all. I have a whole reference section in here. I wasn't playing. I had a whole reference section. I had to pay somebody to lay this book out. I had to pay somebody to edit the book. Anyway, so that's why me and ChatGPT got to talk, because now you can edit. You can do grammatical corrections. Yeah. So what was I going to say? So the trope was rooted in slavery, and I have a lot of older videos that goes into that. What was happening was that they were going into the minstrel shows, where people now had time a little bit after slavery. It ended in the country 1865. They started going into having plays and entertainment, and in these plays, white men were writing, specifically white men were writing these plays, and they were casting themselves in blackface and drag as, and this is true story, as black women. And so therefore what I found during this study, because before I did the study, I was trying to get to the root and everybody was talking about it, but I didn't get what they were saying. I didn't get to the crux of the matter, right? So that's why I felt the need to do the study. Anywho, what I found was that these white men were perpetuating this stereotype to everywhere that they went, because they would travel all around the country and they would have these minstrel shows, and they would do the angry black woman trope. They would do on stage in drag and blackface. They would do the Jezebel trope on stage in drag in blackface, right? So they weren't hiring women. It was like the Shakespearean time. They weren't hiring women to play these roles. They were playing these roles, okay? And so what happened is, after it came out of these minstrel shows and it evolved into radio, at the emergence of radio in the early 1900s, they took it and they put this thought process into radio. So like I'm speaking to you, I'm about to read this book. That was the entertainment of the day. People would gather around their radio and they would listen and hear, these stories being read, right? So one of those radio shows, and this is all verifiable, you can look it up. One of these radio shows was Amos and Andy. And when you see, it was white people who were writing these scripts and basically cementing in the mind of the public this thought process. And why I found it curious is because, well, for many reasons. And one is that this thought process is saying, essentially, when you strip it all down and it's bare, what it's saying is that you, woman, are in an oppressive system. But while you're in this oppressive system, I don't want you, not me, the oppressor does not want you to express that. They don't want you to say you're displeased. They want you to smile. They want you to grin it. They want you to bear it and like your oppression. And if you rebel, if you push back, if you say you don't like this oppression, then they're going to chastise you. They're going to castigate you. They're going to give you, you're obstinate. One of the favorite words they used to use. You're obstinate. You're disobedient. You're non. And then what they would do with the women is sell them off to tell the others that, listen, she was disobedient. Therefore, I'm going to sell you off. One of the books. Hold on, I'm supposed to be talking about Madame, but it's okay. We riding tonight. One of the books that got me pissed. When I say pissed, I mean pissed. Where's the book? What I found is that a lot of even what we're facing today, when people say the black content creators and white content creators don't get they don't get the same opportunities. One person could be doing something of a certain demographic, but when another person does it, then it has validity. This is nothing new. This is something that has been and continues to be. So even though it's not the full on in your face, the remnants of this conversation is still here. So at the root, I came into publishing books through self-help books and through research, right? And so that took me into slavery, into which I wanted to know about the institution of enslavement. I wanted to know about that antebellum time period, because then it will help me to understand better. Listen, y'all know, you saw me getting all the Marcus Garvey books. I did the same thing. This book right here, I'm not even going to read it right now because I don't even want to get pissed off. This lady right here, let me let you see her real good. Miss Ann Kemble, you see her face? Looking real suspect. You see her face? Oh, gosh. Let's just say it's written all over her face. She's just one of them. This is the journal of a resident on a Georgian plantation, 1838 to 1839. So this Frances Ann Kimball woman, she's the wife and she marries a plantation owner and she's keeping this journal. So how this information about these archetypes that they created was passed on was through their writings, through their dinner parties, through their communications, right? At the time, socially, all right? And so when we come and see them back into popular media today, because they haven't gone away, this is why you see, what was the lady name again who did Gone with the Wind? You see people, actors trying to fight the stereotype. You had the Mammy, you had Sapphire, which is the sexual temptress, and you have the angry Black woman. Like, these are the archetypes that stereotypically you have to fit in order for people to get you. And when you try to break out of these things, there's no place to really put you, and people don't really understand. So they keep trying to stuff you into these boxes, right? I forgot why I started talking about this. Oh, yes. So I say that to say ChatGPT from this time, from even 2015 to today, which is almost how many years later, almost 10 years later, you have to me, it helps to look at the value and the drawbacks of something and see how you can move your way forward, right? So when doing this project, I like how I wove it back in, right? I'm back. When doing this project, let me put this lady down, because this lady right here, this lady is stressful. Frances Ann Kimball. Let me put this lady down. Oopsie. Uh-oh. I have to get it. So, what was I going to say? Oh, ChatGPT. So what it can be used for is to help with sentence structure. It can be used to help with editing. It can be used to help if people need, depending on how you write, if you're a writer, depending on how you write, it's going to help you to outline. If you tell it, hey, I'm outlining a book and this is where I want to go, it'll help you with those things. Some people sell templates for those things. So it's like, I've bought templates over the years. So is the template cheating too? You know what I mean? Like, you have to know where you're going with this. And in this particular story, now we did all of that, the preface and all that. Shout out to those who have just joined us. In this particular story, and the platform is open to, I always tell people that they could come up, they can share their thoughts, as long as we're respectful. We keep it clean over here. But if someone has their story to share, and if they want to come on and share the story, I've always opened the platform to do so. Not a lot of people come on and do it, but hey, you know, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. I'm the type, I like to help people along the way if they even want it, right? Madame, we're going to read a little bit now. I say all that to say, thank you for rocking with me. We are going to get into this. So I gave myself the challenge, because I like challenges, to see how long it would take me from start to finish, being that I've done this process a number of times, to see how long it's going to take me to do this book realistically. And I gave myself 7 days, which was ridiculous. It was ridiculous, but I made it. Okay. Would I do 7 days again? No, I would extend it a little bit so that I'm not stressed, but nonetheless, I still made it. So we're going to read a little bit, and you guys tell me if this sounds like ChatGPT. You heard me put the audiobook version up, which I'm going to put another one. So I'm going to give you the preface, because we already did chapter 1. So essentially, this story is following a young girl. Actually, it's a story following women, not just a young girl. I placed it in Nigeria because I already said I like watching Nigerian movies because of, you know, they go into the human experience. But anyway, I placed it in Nigeria, and I wanted to see how much the ChatGPT got cultural references, right? So I was testing the cultural references. If I put puff puff, would it know what it was? If I put, you know, of course it's a computer, but I kind of just wanted to see how it was able to respond to the prompts that I was giving it. So essentially, this young girl, her father abandoned her and her mother. They think he's dead or he's missing or something happens to him, right? and before she was one, and so her mother has to sell at the market these puff puffs, which is bread, donuts, fried dough, at the market so that they can make a living and so that they could stay afloat. And she's been doing it for 9 years, right? She's been taking she has all of the responsibility of a single mother to take care of this child and herself. So eventually what happens in chapter 1 is that someone who has been frequenting the market finally they have been noticing her over time, and there was a position that opened up. Because one thing I noticed watching a lot of Nigerian movies, and even in other cultures like Caribbean cultures, they would hire helpers. They would hire helpers, drivers, gardeners, people from the community. They would hire them, and it's very much part of the culture, right? Today here you may hire the person, but they don't live at your house, right? But in many of those instances, they have places where their helpers and their servants live at their location. So this is giving like cultural context. And this is for those also who want to write their books. It's not just to say, oh, I just want to have this story and this is the character and I'm following the person along. What's going on in that culture? What's going on in that society? Those things the reader may or may not know. And it's helpful to take some time to kind of build out the world around your character. Long story short, we're going to get to chapter 2. So essentially she gets the job. Mom Dukes gets a job offer, okay, to be the head chef at this family's location, their home on Victoria Island, which is like, the Beverly Hills of the situation. Sorry, it's where the people live. And I want to just say this too. If we are upset that we're not seeing our own selves, this is why I got to shout out to Nollywood and Bollywood, because they took it in their own hands. They wasn't waiting for someone else. And that's what social media is empowering a lot of people to do, is to show their culture. Whether you're from Trinidad, you have a shout out to all the Trinidadian comedians that's coming out lately. Whether you're from Jamaica, whether you're from the rest of the Caribbean or, Guyana, wherever you're from, they're taking up their camera. And just be mindful also when we're taking up our camera, because sometimes when you write, you really have to think through what it is you're doing. You have to think through what it is you're trying to say. But when you are acting, because, I had a stint for a while as Karen, and when you're creating these skits, you just get empowered. You just get ready to let your creative juices flow. And then the next thing you know, you're just doing things. That's what happens, right? And so you don't realize until after you've done the thing, whether or not it's distasteful or whether or not it needed to be refined. There's no director's cut. They're just recording it, and in book, they're putting it on the internet. So it's give and takes with that conversation too. So I find that writing is very effective in many things. But anyway, let me go to chapter 2. So she gets the job, and it's like George Jefferson and Weezy. They're moving on up to the east side. Okay. They are going to now leave their community and the struggle life. And now they're going to go to work at this place. She's going to be making 10 times her salary. The mother, her name is Nkechi. Okay. I tried to use authentic names. Okay. Her name is Nkechi, and the daughter's name is Ada. Right? The reader calls her Ada, but her name is Ada. Okay. So Nkechi and Ada are moving now to Victoria Island, and the mother is going to be the head chef at this family's home. So when they get to the family home, and I'm just giving the synopsis, definitely read it and let me know your thoughts. I see a lot of people bought Island Twist and read it, but I don't see the reviews, y'all. Y'all have to share the reviews so that more people, and that's the thing with being an author. But anyway, if you want to write, just write. The people will read it now or later. Like, people are still reading Shakespeare today, so they'll either read it now or later, but just write it anyway. So now they're moving, right? And her daughter is really not sure about this move. She is not feeling the move. She's not sure about the move. But her mother is like, yo, we've been struggling long enough. Let's go. Okay, so let me continue here. So chapter 2, Nkechi's, so that was the preface. What we're reading is from the new novel, Madame. Okay. And I put the link. Let me put the link here. If you would like to, oopsie, nope, that's not the link. Yeah, that's the link. The link is here in the box. All right, boom. So today, no, I should let the lady read. Y'all let me know if you like this reader. Let's let the lady read and give myself a little break here. I've been reading since the Lev Project, y'all. I've been reading since the Lev Project. Oh, let me show you no, wait, pause. Because sometimes I just to give you guys, I don't do this enough. I realize that. Just to kind of cap what I was sharing before as it relates to doing this work and why you just need to do it regardless. Okay. And the attention will come or not in due time. So this is for those who can see my screen. Let me move this real quick. And then we're going to get back to the reading. This is the local newspaper. And if you can see, it's going to be, this is 2016, right? So it's going to be 8 years in January that this is me. That's your girl right there. Hold on. Where did the thing go? Hold on a second. Here we are. This thing is crazy acting. Anyway, Florida, from dream to meme, social media enlivens new generation. This is January 18th, 2016, right? And so I was doing this Lev project, the same thing I was talking to you about, that spawned out of the Angry Black Woman book, right? That I had done it the year before. So I decided to read the slave narratives and to study, research slavery, enslavement, but not just for myself. I decided to do it for 1 year because people were like, oh, Black History Month is only one month. And everybody's always complaining year after year. I said, okay, let's focus, because people often talk about us having to know our history. But then when it comes time, we will rather talk about what we think we know versus what we actually know, right? We don't have any references. We don't have any information that other people could further their knowledge source on. We just talk. And that after a time, it's like, come on, let's do better. So anyway, this is when the young ones were really young. If you're on the other thing, you're not able to see it. That's me right there. From dream to meme, social media enlivens new generation. Right? There you see it. Emunah Yisrael. This is what I'm reading. 50 Years in Chains by Charles Ball. That is a narrative that was written by someone after they left enslavement. And I was actually at the Essence of Knowledge Urban Bookstore. Shout out to Miss Michelle at the Essence of Knowledge Urban Bookstore. Okay. So, and then it goes into, I'll just read a little bit. Over the last few years, Emunah Yisrael has watched as a new generation of social justice advocates march shoulder to shoulder in cities as far-flung as Baltimore, Ferguson, and New York. Because remember, a little bit before this, it was all about Mike Brown. It was all about Baltimore. It was all about Ferguson. And I was like, okay, we're paying attention to social media. Let's use it. People don't necessarily have to go to university to learn this information. Let's create a space where we can learn this information for ourselves. But then I quickly learned that there was more to the story. But anyway, it says, but the inspiration, while rooted in Dr. Martin Luther King's prophetic call for justice and equality, has moved from the infrastructure of church halls and payphones to the vastness of social media. He's writing about the Black Lives Matter, right? So here you see a self-help author and social activist, right? What you saw with the movement, and this is them interviewing me here. And it goes on to talk a little bit more about it, right? And I'm talking about the value of it, and I'm talking about how helpful it can be if we use it properly. If we use it properly. So that was just a quick little a look at some of the work that has been done and continues to be done. And hopefully we could pass it on to the next generation. The fact that the babies can't read is the parents. We have no excuse. We have no excuse. We have no excuse. But anyway, let me read chapter 2 of Madame. Actually, no, I said I was going to play it. So this is chapter 2. I'll talk a little bit about it and then I'll wind down. Hold on. Is it not playing?
In the early morning sun.
Okay, here we are. Okay, chapter 2.
Madam, a West African tale of love and loyalty. Emuna Israel.
Wait a minute.
Sedan, far more elegant than anything they had ever. Bosses had sent their personal driver to pick him up. He arrived at 8 o'clock sharp, his jet black car gleaming in the early morning sun. It was a sleek, polished sedan, far more elegant than anything they had ever seen. The low hum of the engine as he pulled into the compound called to the neighbors who gathered around, their eyes full of curiosity. Mama turned to me, her voice low but firm. Say goodbye, but don't say too much. Mama had seen too many people pretending to be friends while secretly wishing for someone's downfall. She was cautious. Chapter 2. Nkechi's new bosses had sent their...
Okay, this thing just started over. But again, I put themes in there that are very relatable. Even we see it today, unable to trust or believe that everybody who's around us is necessarily for us, right? And so you have these cultural practices, or you have these cultural sayings that her mother is warning her, and this is how it gets passed on to the next generation. She's excited. She wants to tell people, hey, we're leaving. You know what I mean? She's grown up in this place for 9 years, but she's afraid to tell the people that she's leaving because she doesn't want them to bad mind her. Basically, what they call in Caribbean, she bad mind. She don't want them for bad mind her, right? So she's telling her daughter, like, be easy, say bye, but don't tell them like where you going, what you're gonna do. And that's something that still lives on unto this day, which is sad, because how can you share your wins? How can you share your progress when you're always concerned that somebody is not, somebody's out to get you, essentially? But let's continue.
Personal driver to pick him.
And it started over because I didn't finish cutting this, but it's okay. Rock with it.
Up. He arrived at 8 o'clock sharp, his jet black car gleaming in the early morning sun. It was a sleek, polished sedan, far more elegant than anything they had ever seen. The low hum of the engine as he pulled into the compound called to the neighbors who gathered around, their eyes full of curiosity. Mama turned to me, her voice low but firm. Say goodbye, but don't say too much. Mama had seen too many people pretending to be friends while secretly wishing for someone's downfall. She was cautious, wise even in her worry, knowing that the world was not always kind to those who were hopeful.
And in other cultures, they call it what? Evil eye. They have jewelry, they do all of these things because they're afraid that other people are going to give them the evil eye, right?
Ada nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle in her chest. Even though she didn't fully understand the politics of the world around us, she trusted Momo's judgment. We'll be okay, she whispered to me, her eyes scanning the crowd, as if searching for someone. I wished I could be as certain as she was, but all I could do was nod and squeezed her hand tightly. This was the next step, this was life moving forward, even if it felt like we were leaving pieces of ourselves behind.
And they've been there for so long. They've been in this location for 9 years. She hasn't seen her father. She don't know where he is. And children in their mind is like, if I leave from this place, if I move from this place, will he even know where to find us? Will he even know where we are, right? So even though her mother is promising her, like, economically, we're going to be better, you're going to get to a better school, things are going to be better, she's unsure. And if you've ever been a child who's moved in your youth, that kind of, the feelings that you had around that move, the feelings that you had around that experience, they inform how you move today. You may not know, how you operate. You may not know that that's where that came from, but in many cases, it comes from these experiences that sometimes we bury in the recesses of our mind, right? So this is from this child's perspective that she's like, I don't know about this, mommy. Are you sure?
The journey to our new house began with silence. We settled into the back seat of the car, and I gazed.
And by the way, does it sound like AI wrote it? That's what I'm saying. You have to, if the same chef, a chef could take a knife and just skill it. And then somebody who is not proficient, they can be fumbling all over the place. So it's a tool. How you use it is going to determine how it's used. I should coin that. How you use it is going to determine how it's used, right?
At the window as the city passed by. It felt surreal, the thought of living somewhere new, of leaving everything I had ever known behind. I wondered what our new home would be like. Would it be grand? Would it feel like a place where I belonged? Or would it feel as foreign to me as this car, with its plush seats and tinted windows? Traffic slowed to a crawl, and the heat inside the car became unbearable. My dress clung to the back of my legs, the sticky fabric making it impossible to sit still. I shifted in my seat, hoping for some relief. The car inched forward, each passing moment making the heat feel worse.
So one would ask, why is she in this luxury car? I like to put like little weird things in there. Like, why is she in this luxury car, but uncomfortable? The second thing is you and your parent, you and your elder, you and your brother or your sister or your uncle or your aunt or your granny could be in the same place at the same time, having a totally different experience. This is why I like to weave in all of the things, because how is it that she's only concerned with why is it so hot in this car and I'm uncomfortable, but in this very comfortable space? Why am I uncomfortable when this I've never been in a car this nice before, right? And this is for people who, they always wanted to get a house, a car, go to a new location, and everything around you seems good. Everything around you is telling you it's supposed to be good, but something else is going on and you're not comfortable, right?
I glanced over at Mama, who was staring out of her window, lost in thought. She didn't seem to mind the heat, she never did, but I could feel the sweat trickling down the back of my neck, a reminder of just how different everything was becoming.
And why did the
driver,
guy turn on the air
a man
conditioner?
dressed in a sharp suit, must have noticed my fidgeting through the rearview mirror. He cleared his throat and spoke gently. Air conditioning, he asked, his voice polite and considerate. We had never been in a car with air conditioning before, and to be honest, I didn't even know how it worked. Mama, always practical and willing to embrace whatever comfort was offered, nodded quickly. Yes, please, she said, her tone gracious. With the press of a button, a cool breeze began to circulate in the car, and almost instantly, I felt better. The relief was almost immediate, and I exhaled in gratitude. The car, which had felt like an oven moments before, now seemed like an oasis.
I don't know why I went in on the air conditioner. I don't know why. But again, if you've been in a car and the heat is oppressive, it's like, Reggie, there ain't no wind blowing. Like, give me something.
I couldn't help but relax, my body finally at ease, and I allowed myself to enjoy the smooth ride, the hum of the engine, and the feeling of being whisked away to a new chapter. As the car turned onto a tree-lined street and pulled up toward the entrance of the new house, I felt as if a silent, invisible hand was gripping me, making it hard to move or think clearly. This house was beautiful, large, with a high iron gate and a well-maintained driveway leading up to a pristine front door. The yard was expansive, with neatly trimmed hedges and a few colorful flowers blooming in the garden. It felt like a dream I hadn't dared to hope for, and yet here it was, right in front of me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself as the car came to a stop. The driver turned off the engine, and for a moment, I just sat there, staring at the house. Mama opened the door and motioned for me to follow. I knew one thing for sure, there was no turning back now. Mrs. Anik met us at the front door, her smile subtle and inviting.
Okay, so hold on. They got there now. They're there. The house is huge. You know what I mean? They've never been, they coming from the hood, essentially. They're coming from the hood. They're not coming from the village, but they're not coming from this. And so they've arrived and everything is like, oh, you understand what I'm saying? And now the employer has met them And let me know if you can understand the accent too, because I wanted to kind of get an authentic a Nigerian accent to read it. I can understand it, and it may be because I listen to it often. But let me know if it's easy to understand for you as well.
She was dressed in a crisp, well-tailored teal and yellow polka dot dress. She looked every bit the sophisticated, elegant woman I had imagined. Her hair was styled neatly, swept into a smooth bun. Her eyes sparkled with a hint of mystery and a splash of friendliness that immediately put me at ease. Standing beside her were her staff, a small group of well-dressed individuals who looked every bit as polished as their employer. There was a tall man in a khaki suit, his posture impeccable, and a young woman with a gleaming white apron, her hands folded in front of her, looking both eager and poised. As we approached, Mrs. Anik stepped forward, extending her hands in greeting. "Welcome," she said in a voice that was both warm and authoritative. "We are so pleased to have you here." Her hands clasped mine gently, her grip firm yet kind, and for a moment, I felt a sense of comfort in her presence. The way she spoke, with a mixture of genuine enthusiasm and quiet command, made me believe that this would be a place where I could truly begin to feel at home. Behind her, her staff stood in a neat row, waiting for us to acknowledge them. The tall man gave a small, respectful nod, while the woman in the apron offered a polite grin. They stood quietly.
And now we also see beyond that is first impressions, right? At first you're like, yeah, whoever you meet, you have a new job. And then the more you settle in, you begin to rethink. That's why sometimes we all have first impressions, but it's also good to let it marinate real quick before you jump out there and say, yeah, this is the best thing ever.
Like well-trained servants, ready to fulfill whatever duties lay ahead. It was a bit overwhelming, seeing so many people there welcome us. "Let me show you inside," she continued, motioning toward the grand entrance behind her. The front door was tall and impressive, crafted from dark wood with intricate carvings that seemed to tell a story of their own. As she led us inside, the house was cool and comfortable, a sharp contrast to the warm, sticky humidity we had left outside. The hallway was wide, lined with polished marble floors that gleamed under the soft glow of elegant chandeliers hanging from the high ceilings. It felt like we had entered another world, a place where everything was pristine, orderly, and well cared for.
Y'all feeling that? Let me know if y'all feeling that. Y'all kind of quiet. Let me know. Are you there? Are you there with Ada? Did you just walk in the door? Are you in the place? And another thing I have to shout out social media for is to show you the other side of the continent, because many people who've gone there before and brought back their reports would like to highlight only certain things, but social media and people taking control of their own narrative shows you the things that are there, really, as opposed to what people were thinking was there. Oh, you're just living in a dirt hut. Oh, and it's like some of these houses you could never you could never. Okay, some of these houses, some of these estates, some of these compounds you could never, right? So
"Please, follow me," she gestured toward a door at the far end of the hallway. I hesitated for just a moment, glancing at Mama, who gave me a reassuring nod, before I stepped forward, my footsteps echoing on the polished floors as we made our way down the corridor. Mrs. Anik led us to a large, airy room with an open doorway that revealed a bright and spacious kitchen. The scent of freshly baked bread and simmering spices greeted me immediately, a comforting smell that made my stomach growl despite the unease still twisting in my gut. The room was immaculate, every surface gleaming, the counters and cabinets made of high-end, polished wood and stainless steel. It was a far cry from Mama's small, cramped cooking space we had back home. This was more like something out of a dream, a space that seemed made for real chefs. "This," she began, sweeping her hand around the room, "is where you'll be working." She walked over to a large marble countertop, its surface cool and flawless. Mama's eyes wandered around, taking in the gleaming appliances, double ovens, a professional-grade stove with 4 burners, and rows of shiny pots and pans neatly arranged in open cupboards.
Again, for those who just joined us, welcome. We are taking a listen to an experimental novel that's written by my prompting ChatGPT to pull this thing together. The book is available, link is in the description, but I've taken the liberty to do some of these chapters in an audiobook fashion so we can listen collectively and, discuss. So right now, if you just joined us, they moved on up like George and Wheezy. They got a new job and now they're in these rich people house on Victoria Island in Nigeria, and she's seeing where her mother would be working. Her mother used to sell puff puffs or little dough balls at the market, and now she's the head chef for this rich family. Okay, so what an interesting turn of events. Oh yeah, and her father disappeared 9 years ago, and no one has heard from him since. And they actually think, he died or something, right? So this is where they are for all accounts and all intents and purposes. She's an orphaned by her father, and she's with her mother, and they're trying to make the best out of life.
The refrigerator stood tall and impressive, its double doors inviting, while the countertops were cluttered with fresh ingredients, ripe tomatoes, leafy herbs, and whole vegetables, ready for whatever meals would be prepared. You'll learn it in time. The key is to stay organized and efficient, she smiled, but there was an expectation in her gaze. I trust you fit in perfectly. Mama swallowed hard, trying to push down the nervousness that threatened to rise. She nodded, trying to mask her uncertainty with a smile. Mama had worked in kitchens before, but never one this grand, never one that felt so perfect. And if you ever have any questions, my staff is here to help. We followed the head housekeeper, Marie, who had been instructed to help us get settled in. She led us out through the back door and down the driveway to a set of apartments behind the main house. These were the servants' quarters, and though they were not as grand as the rest of the estate, they had a certain practicality to them. The building was small and simple, tucked away in the back of the property, where all the staff lived and worked. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. Ada missed the hustle of the market, the chatter of people, the sense of community.
And that goes to show for some people, everybody can't come. Oh no, Ada's a little girl. Ada's small. But sometimes you take the people out the hood, but the hood is still in the people. So her mother is like, yo, you little, you know what you're talking about. We've suffered long enough. And she's over here missing, the brawlingness, missing all the excitement, missing the hype. And in her estimation, it's too quiet. Like I've seen this type of thing. Let me know in the chat if you've seen this type of stuff in real life. Like the stuff that people complain about, the stuff they say they always want. It's like you see these videos of people moving from the city, whether it be New York, wherever, and they move to North Carolina or South Carolina, and then they complain, or they move to Florida and they complain like, oh my goodness, or they move to Georgia. Oh, it's so boring. There's nothing to do here. It's kind of that situation that she's experiencing right now. For those who just joined us, we're listening to the new novel just dropped this week. Let's go. Hey, mess around. I'm gonna be dropping these novels like you dropping albums or something. Just dropping albums. I'm still letting it sink in. It's been a crazy week.
But here, there were only the sounds of distant voices and the clink of dishes as Mama and the others prepared meals for the family. After about a week, Nkechi and her daughter began to settle in. They had met Mr. Anik, but he was hardly around. It was always his wife calling the shots, always writing long list that Mama had to complete. The wife was kind but distant, always busy with her own affairs, while her husband was even more aloof. Little Ada often complained to her mother that the only person she felt somewhat comfortable around was their young daughter, Amora, who was about the same age as her. Amora was a quiet girl with dark, serious eyes and a soft voice. She wasn't mean but not very outgoing either. She rarely played with her, preferring to read books or sit by the window, gazing out at the garden. The more time passed, it felt like their new boss was hiding something.
Oh boy.
The strange silences that fell whenever the family was together, it was the way the house itself felt like it was holding its breath, waiting to exhale. There were whispers they couldn't quite catch, rooms they weren't allowed in, and moments when even Madame Anik's warm smile seemed to hide something darker behind it.
Now, here we go. Now, here we go. So, this little girl, wait a minute, I'm trying to share this. She just get to the house. At first, it seemed good, but when you settle in a little bit, you realize maybe not so good. So they have like, the house is giving secrets. You know what I mean? Oh boy, here we go.
The longer they stayed, the more it seemed like the family was constructing an image of perfection, all while something just beneath the surface remained carefully concealed. Nkechi ignored her suspicions and moved through the house like she belonged there, her steps confident, her voice steady. The Aniks had given her an entire kitchen and she poured herself into it, creating meals that made the family's lips curl into satisfied smiles. Their staff, a quiet group of cooks and helpers, looked to her as their leader. Ada could see how the respect they gave her made her mother stand taller and prouder. Beyond the staff, the house was cold. Not in the physical sense, but in the way whispers moved through it, like shadows on a dark moon. One afternoon, Ada was sitting on the stone steps of the servants' quarter.
So you see, you got to put stuff in there, like AI wasn't going to say whispers moving through it like shadows on a dark moon. Like you gotta populate it. So it's a course in how to do it. You have to have to a certain degree this creative, poetic mind of a writer, so that it doesn't stay so as mechanical, and so that, because it's not writing, this stuff comes from the soul. It's a computer, so it doesn't have a soul. You understand? So the person is the one who's like crafting it to into what it needs to be. Like, you don't make the clay, but you craft the clay. You understand? That does not say I will not be writing my own books. For those who are like, Amuna is just writing, I will continue to write my own books. I'm saying for those who are interested in it, how it needs to be done for it to come out like something. But let me continue. So right now the thing I get sticky. If you're able to hear, they have a young daughter named Amara. The family does, but she's not like hey, let's go and play. So at this point, the other young girl, Ada, she's feeling a little lonely. You understand? And the mother, she's picking up on this stuff in Nkechi, but she's trying to not make, how you see red flags, but you pretending like you don't see the red flags because you just want to do what you need to do. That's kind of the position that Nkechi is in. So they're like really relatable people. And then we also see how people find themselves in precarious situations, because when we're putting things on the scale, trying to weigh out, am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? You choose to do something because you want the other thing that's on the other side. We're almost winding down.
Staring at the sky, when Amora appeared from the side of the house, holding a small package wrapped in brown paper. "You're outside today," she said, trying to sound casual. Amora nodded, her eyes never leaving the package she was holding. "I like to watch the birds," she murmured. Ada was about to ask why she had been so quiet lately when Amora looked at her with an intensity that stopped her short. "Do you like it here?" Amora asked, her voice soft but curious. She shrugged, unsure of how to answer. "I don't know. It's not like home." Amora smiled faintly, her lips curving into something that was almost a smirk. "It's never like home." Ada squirmed from the prickling sensation in the pit of her stomach. "What do you mean?" Amora didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked down at the small package in her hands. "It's not all it seems here." Before she could ask what she meant, Amora walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the house.
Yo, why is Amara giving creepy vibes, Bridget? Why is this little girl saying it never feels like home? Like, yo, what happened to that little girl, yeah, man? Me did not think make a little character in there give some kind of creepy vibes. But them little daughter, I give creepy vibe, and not like.
As days turned into weeks, her unease grew. It wasn't just the strange distance between her and them, it was something more. At night, when she lay awake in the small room she shared with her mother, she would hear muffled sounds from the main house, the clink of silverware, quiet conversations, and footsteps pacing outside her door. One evening, After a particularly quiet day spent wandering the estate and trying to make sense of Amora's words, she sat down to talk with her mother, who was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. Nkechi hummed a quiet tune as she walked her way back to the door, but the moment she entered the room, her mother stopped singing. Is something wrong, my child? Ada had been holding her feelings inside for weeks now, and they were threatening to spill over. I don't like it here, Mama, she confessed, her voice tight. I don't belong here, it's too quiet, too cold. Nkechi sighed, wiping her hands on a towel before turning to face her daughter. I know it's hard, dear. It's not the life we were used to. But this is the best thing that has happened to us since your father disappeared. Do you remember how hard it was for us? Do you want me to go back to selling puff puff at the market?
Slight guilt trip.
She flinched. Of course not, she remembered the hard times. It was all she had ever known. The endless work, the nights of going to bed hungry, the way Mama's face had grown thinner with worry. But that had been the past. Now,
yo, Mama is not trying to have it. Mama said, a guilt trip, me I go guilt trip, you know. You want me to go back for sell puff puff? And that you want? You want to go back to the hard life where you did have? You better keep by yourself and go find something and do. Mom Dukes was not trying to hear it.
They were here, in this grand house with its polished floors and cold, silent rooms. And though her mother had found a new sense of purpose, she felt more lost than ever. I don't care if this is the best thing that's happened to us, Ada said, her voice rising. I miss our old life. I miss the market. I miss the people. I miss the noise. Her mother stepped closer, her expression soft but firm. I know you do. But you must understand, dear, this is a chance for something more. We'll have opportunities we never had before. Ada felt the pressure of her teeth against her bottom lip, her mother's words stirring up the tears she was fighting to hold back. But I don't want this, Mama.
Yeah,
I want us to be together, like we were.
Sometimes when you write in, you want to beat the character. I don't like little pick the tapping eyes. I don't want this. I want to go back and market. I want to go back and sell pop pop tapping eyes. Yo, if you don't talk back to the characters, yo.
Before. I feel like a stranger in this house. She knelt beside her daughter, cupping her face in her hands. This is hard for me too. But I have to do this. This is what your father would have wanted if he was.
Hold on for me 1 second. You guys, hold on. Yeah, phone. How many people want to rough up Ada? Ada, why are you complaining? Oh, you have bettered yourself. Oh, why are you complaining, Ada? I wanted to be like Ada tapping eyes, but Ada is just finding every excuse to go back to the hood. Okay.
See here. The mention of her father gave her chest pain, but she said nothing. Instead, she pulled away from her mother's touch and looked down at the floor. I don't want to be here, Mama. I know, my love. Let's make the best of it. Ada wasn't sure she could. The cold loneliness in her soul was growing, and the walls of the house seemed to close in around her. Chapter 3.
Wait, hold on. Chapter 3. That was chapter 2. Let me know, for those who just joined us, let me know how you liked that. How was it? Did you feel like you were in the story? Are you following it? Did you want, as a parent, did you want to rags up Ada? Is she complaining too much? Does she just need to chill out and stop making extra trouble because she never have no job again, mother? Okay? So the mother get one little work now, and Ada go on the most way. Really, Ada? Get your life together, young girl. I think I'm going to what? How much minutes are we? 1 minute in. 1 hour in. Let me know what you guys are saying in the chat. I'm going to go and do, I think I have 2 more things recorded, but I'm only going to do 1 more. I'm going to do chapter 3. So far, let me go ahead and bring everybody up to speed. In chapter 1, we're introduced to some of the main characters. In chapter 2, we're moving on up to the east side, moving on up, and they have now gone into the home they've gotten their new job and they're settling in, but there's something unsettling about the settling in. Is it the house? Is it the people? Is it that creepy little girl? Who knows, right? So let's go into chapter 3 now. And if you're like, Amuna, I want to read the story myself, click the link in the box and you'll be able to read the story yourself. Okay, so let's continue here, because over here you're going to get the jokes. Let me go to chapter 3 now.
You want me to go back to selling puff puff at the market?
I don't know why it's doing that. Hold on.
They had met Mr. Anik, that discovered something that would change everything. Madam Anik had invited several guests to their home for a grand dinner, and young Ada had been at his weekly dinner gathering that met Mr. Anik, but he was hardly around. It was always his wife calling the shots. Chapter 3.
Thank you.
It was on the night of the family's weekly dinner gathering that Ada discovered something that would change everything.
See, story I come to one.
Madam Anik had invited several guests to their home for a grand dinner, and young Ada had been asked to serve drinks and help clear the plates. As she moved through the hallways, she caught snippets of conversation, fragments of words that made her curious. That afternoon, as she passed by the sitting room, a voice she recognized stopped her in her tracks. It was Mrs. Anik speaking in hushed tones to someone she...
So Mrs. Aneke, they call her Anik, but Aneke, she's the boss, right? And so they're having this dinner party at the house. Remember, she wants any reason to tell her mother, let's get out of here. She wants any reason to call it a day, right? So now they're at this dinner party because they're rich and they're entertaining friends and family, and she's helping her moms, amongst the people. So let's listen.
Couldn't see. She paused, unable to move, straining to catch every word. God told me to tell you to stop hiding the truth, a mysterious voice whispered. Low.
Eavesdrop. Eavesdrop. No, let me pull it back. Talk about straining to hear the words. My girl is eavesdropping. Let's listen.
To catch every word. God told me to tell you to stop hiding the truth, a mysterious voice whispered, low and urgent. It belonged to a woman wearing a white turban and white gown, her voice carrying authority, yet there was something unsettling in her tone. Hiding what? Her voice quivered with an underlying tension, a fear she hadn't heard before. The woman let out a long sigh, the sound heavy with meaning. The truth can't be silenced, she hissed. Ada's pulse quickened, her mind racing with questions. What truth? And why was she so frightened? The exchange felt like a crack in the facade of the polished life the family had built. What was Mama's boss hiding? And why was this woman, whoever she was, so determined to reveal it? Before she could gather her thoughts, she heard someone approaching. Panicked, she ducked behind a large potted plant near the doorway, hoping they wouldn't see her. Amora.
So this little picnic I eavesdrop upon the boss and this mysterious spiritual looking lady that tells her you can't keep hiding. You got to tell the truth, right? And she's like, what truth? Like, what are they hiding? The little girl is with, the boss is with, and nobody even knows where the husband is, right? Mr. Aneke. Like, what is going on in this house?
Emerged from a room down the hall, her face pale and strained, as though she had just witnessed something she wasn't supposed to. Without a word, she walked quickly past Ada, her head down, still clutching the small package she had been holding earlier. Ada felt she was getting closer to finding out what the family was hiding. Nkechi had no clue what was going on. She was too busy transforming into the head chef of the Anik house. Everyone raved about her cooking, family members and their guests all praising her with compliments that made her beam with pride. But there was one thing Ada couldn't ignore, Mr. Anik's increasing attention toward her mother.
See, husband, come now.
It wasn't blatant at first, just small gestures, subtle looks, an occasional lingering touch on her mother's arm or back as he complimented her food. At first, she dismissed it as the kind of thing that could happen in such an environment, rich men who flattered their cooks, women who were only too eager to accept the attention of their employers. But then, one afternoon, when his wife was away at the market, Mr. Anik's behavior shifted in a way that made Eddie never trust him again.
Ratted.
Chapter 4.
Wait. No, chapter 4. So, story I come to bump very early on. We don't reach chapter 4 yet. So, just to recap, and then I'm gonna wind down. Y'all let me know your thoughts in the description. Just to recap, we get introduced to this family. There's a mother and her daughter. She gets the opportunity. She moves to the Victoria Island, rich Beverly Hills type vibration. She starts working as a chef, but everything is not as it seems. The little girl wants to go back to the hood. Her mother is like, "You better go sit down somewhere and go do something." Um, the mother's pretending, and I actually was listening to something. I'm gonna cross over a little bit right now. I was listening to the man. What is his name? Youngblood. I forgot his Dwayne Youngblood. I think his name is. He was talking on the talk show or the podcast about his experience and about what he saw happening to his younger sister and how the father abused the child. So right away my mind asked, where's the mother? So the interviewer asked, well, where was your mother? And his response was, you ready for this? The mother was at work, and she would work, like, you would want to say, I don't want to misquote him. So like, you don't want to say, she would work from Tuesday to Sunday. Right? So the fact that this father is at the house and the mother is the one who's at work and the children are uncovered or unprotected is problematic, right? Usually something happens within that dynamic where the mother is not in position to do what she needs to do and the children are exposed. So in this particular case, the mother is wholly concentrated on provision, right? She's trying to be there as much as she can or best as she can emotionally for this young girl, but she's focused on what the masculine principle, had he been present, would have been his primary focus, which is provision, to make sure they have some place to live, someplace with something to eat, clothes on their back, and their necessities, their protection and their necessities taken care of. But because the masculine principle is not in this particular situation, they're vulnerable. And that's what happens with a lot of people, right? So you're seeing this vulnerability in this conversation about why the mother, not that she doesn't see or that she doesn't want to see, because if she sees, and this goes for many people in our lives, if they see, what does that mean? You have to do something, or you're going to sit with that discomfort. So instead of seeing, you pretend or you engulf yourself in whatever it is that you're doing so as you not to have to come to a conclusion, make a choice about what you're choosing to pretend you don't know exists, right? So I tried to weave all those themes in very subtly, very human-like, and make the characters real. Let me know your thoughts. Did ChatGPT, does it sound like the robots were writing it, or does it have a human element to it? Right? I'm gonna open up the mic, see if anybody would like to come on and share. And if not, I'm gonna go ahead and wind down. I know I dotted around the place, but hey, we're here now, right? And you're actually up to chapter. It gets good, y'all. Let me just say, I was over here. I had fun. I ain't gonna lie. I had fun writing this thing because it gets good. So right now, the little girl overhears that, this is clearly that the boss is hiding something, and her mind is going a million miles a minute. Like, what could it be that this woman is hiding? Because she knows that something is off. So I put a little link in the description if you would like to come up and share your thoughts. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and boogie. I thought to go live on other stuff, but sometimes I'm tired, Yama. If we don't create new things, if we don't promote the things that we're doing, then we get stuck. Like, for instance, I've seen the people covering this Diddy case devolve because what it does is, and this is why sometimes when things get too toxic for me or taxing, I step back. In order to cover this particular case, among any others, on a continuum, you have to be vested into it as the reporter, right? As the blogger, as the journalist. And so every little piece of information, you are absorbing that. You're taking it in. It becomes a part of who you are. In order for you to speak on it, you had to be hearing it, right? And so what if you watch the people who are covering it, It's taxing because why? They're talking about debauchery, they're talking about uncleanness, they're talking about depravity, they're talking about sodomy, like on a continuum. So far, it's been for the last couple of months. So, what does that do to you? There was a saying that I read one time that the institution of slavery doesn't only take away the humanity of the person enslaved, it also takes away the humanity of the enslaver, right? So these type of things don't just take away from the people who are the victims, but I'm not saying to look away. I'm saying to be measured in the way in which we're consuming this information. Because I'd be like, man, tapping nice, let me hear something else, man. Why go I know that? It's I mean, can we get back to getting back to some things? It's getting crazy, and it doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon. So I don't see anyone coming up to the mic. And so what I'm going to do at this time is say the link is in the box. If you were like, oh yeah, let me just show you one more thing here. I have been doing better here, peoples. I have been organizing all of my creating so that it's accessible in one easy place. Because I do realize I create a lot of stuff. Okay, so here we are. This is the link tree that's also in the box. And in one easy place, you'll have the writing resume, how I've been writing over the years. You have some articles. I have an account on medium.com where I post articles when I can get back around to it. I have the writing course. I have some information that I gave out the other day on cottage laws. If you're like, man, forget all this, Amuna, I want to make some money. I need to make some money from home. I'm actually going to start back up. If you don't know, I had the Yummy Cottage from over 7 years. I had to take a break. And so we're going to come back into that space in a little bit. So I've shared some stuff about how people can make money from home, looking up the cottage laws in your state. If food is your thing, that's if food is your thing. Don't go out there giving them people nothing crazy. But if food is your thing and you can make something that fits within the cottage law, you might want to check it out. And then if you want to buy the ebook that I'm reading from right now, here it is, Madame, a Soul Therapy Novel. How to write your novel in 7 days. See, people be out here like just selling courses and then they ain't do it. And I'm the proof of concept type person. So I had to do it. I'm like, I have to do it. Oopsie. So, I have this thing in you guys' way. But yes, so I did it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I did it, right? So I did it and I documented it so you can see that it can be done. You don't have to do it in 7 days, but again, it's a step by step. And if you want to speak to me, because sometimes a lot of people, they say that, Amuna, I want to talk to you. And aforetime, I used to just give away my time, a lot of it for free, right? And now, we got to level up. We got to level up. And then there is a link that if you would like to share these courses, if you may not be the person who wants to write or do any of these things, but you know somebody who does, you can share the courses and get a commission up to 10%. So just if you click here, let me give you a look around here. If you click the tab, it will bring you here. And this is what we're doing now. I'm not like, you'll never hear the story if you don't buy the course. Hey, Open Book Media, open the book, right? So we're going to talk about it because I wrote it because I think it's important to have the conversation, not just for, financial enrichment, so that we're going to have the conversation regardless. You understand? But if you want to support the channel, these are the ways you can do it. So here is the book. And we have it for $15. You're hearing about it now. So again, if it's interesting to you, let me play this thing. Actually, I think I put it up there already. But yeah, this is the little why is that so far down here? Okay, I'm gonna focus. Anyway, so that's what's going on there. And one more, how to write your novel in 7 days. This is the commercial because I didn't get a chance to do a commercial. Write and edit and publish your novel. How to write it in 7 days using ChatGPT. So essentially, I break it down day by day, how I did it, as well as adding some stuff to it so that you can be, even if you're a novice, you can kind of get the roadmap of how it is done. Okay. And there we go. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And yeah, we'll have a blessed evening. And I will do some more recordings here so that we can listen to some more and have more conversations about this new novel, Madame. All right, everybody have a blessed night. This is a rare occasion. I decided to come on camera tonight. But everybody have a blessed night. Till next time. Take care of yourself.